Welcome to Tales from the Old World, a Warhammer Fantasy podcast, sponsored by War of the Ever-Chosen, a 6th edition fantasy event with some of the most fun and unique scenarios in the hobby. Go to talesfromtheoldworld.com to get your tickets today to claim the title of Ever-Chosen.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Tales from the Old World. In this episode I'm talking to Matt Deery of Matt's 3D Haven, a 3D miniature printing company you can find on Facebook and eBay. Matt's a veteran 6th edition player who's usually in the top 3 of all the 6th edition events I've been to, if he hasn't won completely, that is. And today we're going to talk about his army, the Daemon Legions. Matt's main army is Nurgle, so we mainly talk about Nurgle Daemons, but we do actually talk about the strengths of all the other Daemon armies as well, because a lot of it's relevant when it comes to like the ward saves and stuff like that. In the episode we cover why he chose Nurgle Daemons, what he enjoys about the lore, the creativity you can have when building a Nurgle army, and how you can make it really unique with conversions and special painting. We talk about the differences between the usual mortal hordes armies and the Chaos Demon armies, and what's the real differences. We talk about how demonic instability works and how it can be the real reason the army actually wins or loses. We talk about the lists in the Storm of Chaos supplement, which is what you need to find if you want a list for Demons of Chaos. We go into why that +1 leadership is actually huge for demon armies and how that actually keeps them in the game. We talk about demonic wards and the Cloud of Flies advantage, which actually is a special rule on most of Nurgle. We talk about the strengths of Plague Bearers and how they can be used. We talk about the importance of a Battle Standard Bearer for demons and how it keeps them in the game. We discuss why Nurglings are the best swarm in the game, in my opinion too. We discuss what magic items he never leaves the house without. We talk about how he uses psychology as a weapon to gain victory, not just about combat and magic and things like that. He talks about how the being outnumbered by a fear-causing unit is a huge part of his tactics when it comes to combat. We discuss Greater Demons more in detail, but actually specifically a lot more detail about the Great and Clean one, obviously, mainly with Nurgle. We talk about how enemy armies can take advantage of the slowness of Nurgle. So we do get into if we're going up against Nurgle Demons, what do we do? And slowness is a huge disadvantage for them. And how you can use march blocking to pick apart a Nurgle army. But anyway, let's get into it. Before we do, if you're looking for an amazing 6th edition tabletop event, remember to check out War of the Ever-Chosen with some awesome, unique scenarios. You can go to talesfromtheoldworld.com and click on events for details. So here's the episode. How's it going, mate? You okay? Thanks for coming on.
Not a problem, Dave, those things.
Not so bad, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good. It's been a long November of tournaments, to be honest. So I think I'm glad for the break, to be fair.
Yeah. We just came off Resurrection last weekend, wasn't it? Where your Dark Elves gave everybody a bit of a spanking, really, which is a surprise for most people because everybody's like, "Oh," especially for me as a former Dark Elf player who never gets sod all. Seeing who get 11,000 tournament points, and I don't think I'm even making that number up. I think that was the actual number.
It was pretty much bang on 12k, wasn't it? It was quite abusive, to be fair.
Real quickly, we're getting into Chaos Demons today, but go on, tell us that you listed what you did for those Dark Elves.
Dark Elves. So what did I say? I took a level 4 on a Pegasus with the Soul Stone to she ignores miscasts, Life Taker because crossbow, and the 4 reward from the Storm of Chaos book. Another level 2 with the Doombolt wand. I can't pronounce the name of it. You probably know it, Dave. Another level 4 with the level 2, sorry, with the Seal of Grond and the Darkstar Cloak. Then 20 crossbowmen, 15 Dark Riders, obviously 3 units of 5 with crossbows and musicians, some Cold Bond Knights with full command and the Standard of Slaughter, a Cold Bond Chariot, 2 units of 6 Shades, and 4 repeater bolt throwers.
What the 4 bolt throwers is what gives everybody pause. How many dice were you rolling in your shooting phase? You reckon? If you're going to estimate.
Hang on, let me just bring up the old calculator. I can actually tell you.
It's not even maths we can do.
It is maths. So 20, 35, 47, 48, times 2 plus 24, 120 shots.
Oh, there you go. So good luck, everybody else, especially if you got toughness 3 and you haven't got much armor on you. But anyway, we'll do that. We'll do that another time because it just makes me feel depressed. So I get hammered when I get playing my Dark Elves. So right, we're talking today about the Daemonic Legions and specifically Nurgle's your god of choice. But should we start off with just when did you get into the hobby and how you got into it and how you survived in between the old end times and all that?
Well, I got into the hobby in 1996. That's how long ago it was. I think I was about 8 years old. My mom's friend had two older kids across the road. They played and they got me into it. They played 40k. At the time, this was still 2nd edition 40k. That's how long ago we're talking. It makes making me feel really old now, Dave. So now I'm depressed. Thank you. They took me to the Games Workshop in Birmingham, sorted it, kind of said, oh, this is what you want and everything. So like I came out with a paint set, box of Space Marines. I think it was the Citadel Fire Base as well. I don't know if you remember that cardboard terrain with the necromunda plastic bulkheads and everything. Played that for a while with those guys. Obviously, it was proper kitchen table hammer sort of thing, with terribly painted Space Marines, even to the point that I didn't realise which way Space Marine shoulder pads went on. So I stuck them on the wrong way and everything. But absolutely loved it. Then round about 6th edition started to. I always enjoyed fantasy because I played 40k obviously because those guys were into it. But I always really loved the look of fantasy, especially that old red period 4th, 5th edition Warhammer. That
was my sweet spot when I got into it.
Models wise, that is the sweet spot. Nothing to me is better than those. Orion with his fantastic mullet.
Brilliant.
All the red, everything. It was beautiful.
The tree, I know, because you dabbled with a lot of wood elves, didn't you? And I remember you telling me when you started. I love the tree men from the 90s rather than the big twiglet thing that come in the.
I've got about 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, I love them. I turned them into fen beasts, didn't I, with my army? But I love, just made them shiny and slimy instead. But sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, and then as I started to go to the local Games Workshop in Solihull, then it was very much a case of I started to get into fantasy a little bit more. So, and started with my first love for Warhammer, which will be Wood Elves. People will moan, groan, and everything whenever you say Wood Elves, but they are just my favourite army to play with by far. Always have been, always will be.
To be fair, I don't think there's an army that somebody won't moan and groan about. Because we've all had that hammering off that one race at one time where you're like, that was an overpowered army. How dare
it's like, do
you know what I mean?
Like Tomb Kings are my least favourite army at the moment. Because I keep on getting beaten by them. I just can't deal with them at all. Their magic just melts my head. So I hate Tomb Kings at the moment.
With your demons or with the new Dark Elf army?
Any army. I haven't played Tomb Kings with my Dark Elves, but every time I play my demons, I lose against Tomb Kings.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
And then started to get into fantasy. 6th edition came round. Started playing that quite heavily, but I started to move between armies because, of course, Wood Elves never got their update right until the end.
Yeah.
So I dabbled with a bit of chaos, bit of vampire counts, orcs and goblins, various other bits and pieces. Then Wood Elves got re-released, played those, and they ended 6th edition, and a lot of people started to move away from it. And when I was at university, a lot of people were playing 40k, and I used to play 40k quite competitively, not successfully, mind, at all. I qualified once with an entirely broken army, and then they got rid of it, so that was that dream over. But then around about the mid to start of 8th edition Warhammer, because we'd started to move back to fantasy with the release of 8th edition. I had kind of like the Great Warhammer tantrum of 2012 or whatever it was, I think, because I was playing. It was not long into 8th edition, so I was playing with my Wood Elves. So I was.
So you did try out 8th, and did you?
Unfortunately, I did, yes. But the Wood Elves only still had their 6th edition book. They didn't get their 8th edition book right till the end of Warhammer. Right. Warhammer 8th edition, a bit like Dwarves didn't. And because of that, I was already playing with one arm tied behind my back because the Wood Elf book was not written for 8th edition at all. And because it had all Wood Elves want to be multiple small units of skirmishers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They do bugger all to a block of 50 sword masters.
50. It was a unit of 50. What kind of pervert?
Every 8th edition player. And so, I went to this tournament. It was in Birmingham somewhere, and I played quite literally the same Dark Elf list 3 games in a row because that was the meta list at the time.
Right. I get you.
And so I went, that's it. Stopped for a while. Stopped for a while because I was just like, I can't be dealing with this anymore. I'm sick of the meta chasing, all that sort of stuff. And about a couple of years ago, I got a text message from my mate going, "Are you going to pick up your Wood Elf armor?" Because I'd left it in. He's got a bit like Alex's house. He's like the top floor of the attic has converted into a gaming room.
Yeah.
And everyone used to leave their armies there, and obviously I left it there. And I got this figure case out, and it was covered in a layer of dust about that thick. It was insane. And I started getting through them again, going, I used to love doing this. Why did I stop? But then I started researching about kind of different games and everything. There was an 8th edition tournament in Derby a couple of years ago that one guy that we knew was running. So I went and played with that, and it was quite interesting, kind of getting back in with all the muscle memory and everything. But then I remember going, 8th edition was rubbish. And then I found the 6th edition for him, and game over pretty much, really.
Well, that's why I said. I think I must have said it in another podcast, but because I got back into it, but I never played 6. I literally played 5th, and even though when 6 came out, me and my mates couldn't really afford to get, like new things, so we just kept playing with 5th for a bit, and then it got to a point where it kind of pitted out. So getting back into the hobby, whenever it was, a year or so ago, it was. You look at the latest edition, didn't you? Like, and just looking at the rules, and it was like, how did anybody afford an army in 8th edition? As you say, a unit of 50, and you're like, oh geez, and then it just seemed like I'm sure people who play 8th are listening to this furious, but whatever. But
it was one of the reasons why it died, because 8th edition especially was prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, but 6 to me, it was like the edition I was playing. I played 4th or 5th. With either a couple of improvements or something else that made it more interesting, like the magic phase. I really like. I like the fact it's different, so I could go back and play both. But 8th, just I don't know. Actually, because I wanted to go and play. I didn't know anybody who played it anymore, so I'm going to have to go to an event. Do you know what I mean? To get some games in.
That's what I did. I mean, this was the way that I went about it, because there was a few people in Derby at my local gaming store, Boards and Swords, that play 6th edition, quite regularly, to be fair. But you're always playing the same armies all the time, aren't you? Unless someone builds a new army, it's like there's one guy. It's like Tom Bryan. He is the Goblin King, as I like to call him. He plays common goblins and nothing else. A couple of other guys, they've got their old Dark Elf armies, they've got their old Goblin armies or whatever, which is great because that's what they enjoy playing with. But obviously, you want to start, experiencing different things, because it peters out if you're playing the same thing all the time. Because
if you don't find interesting scenarios, do you know what I mean? If it's just pitch battles and just get a bit flat.
And so I found out about Alex's resurrection events, and I didn't know anyone at all, but I thought, sod it. And I went to the first one that he did in Daventry, but I only went for the tournament day. I didn't go for the campaign day. Because I thought, I'll give it a try. I just dipped my toe in the water and everything. But I met people like John, Garrod, Ed Howden, Tom as well, or I think Tom may be one of the second ones. A few of the people that you start just naturally getting talking to, and now you look at it, the group of mates that have built up around it is insane now. And
I was trying to explain it to people, because I started a Facebook, like Northwest Facebook group, just trying to, as literally because a lot of the events and stuff tend to be down south, or just like not too close to the Midlands are great. They say you got Alex's and stuff in the Midlands and South Wales. But it was just, but basically what I'm getting at is I was really, I'm 6'4", I'm 6'4", I'm full grown man, but I was nervous going back into, do you know what I mean? And I knew I was going to get a hammer in, but you hear stories of people just being arseholes, do you know what I mean? And just like, But I was just for anybody listening who's thinking of going to an event. I was really. I haven't met one dickhead. I might have met somebody, who's like, oh, grumble, grumble. But when they're getting beat, but in between, they're all right. And so you got. It takes some balls to do it, especially with this is the kind of, should we say, it's the kind of hobby where we're not. It might not be full of the most socially confident people, should we say? So step into an event like that does take some balls. So I just recommend doing it because you as I say, and plus you might do terrible in the tournament like I did, but you come away with meeting people that you can go and have future games with away from the tournament and stuff like that, don't you? And like meet up and
exactly. Like I've had you over to my house to have a massive game for just for the hell of it. But I think the important thing is, I mean, what I've got to remember is I mean, I know you're playing a game, everyone wants to win, all that sort of stuff and whatnot, but there's no money on the line. There's none of that. You're just there to play toy soldiers.
I don't want to say I enjoy losing, but if I'm having a good game against a good guy, like just you good, and essentially, if he hasn't cheated or I'll enjoy losing in a way as well. I'll be pissed off that I didn't win, but when you learn something, you've had a bit of a laugh as you're doing it. I think at the end of the day, it's a game. At the end of the day, do you know what I mean? So the win at all costs wankers. I don't quite get. Do you know what I mean?
I will tell you now, the two best games of 6th edition I have had so far, or at least in memory. I've had some really, really, really good games, but the two games that really stand out are two that I have lost.
Yeah, who were you playing? Do you know?
Alex with both of them. It was the first game. It was the first game of Resurrection because I was supposed to play Silvio, but he was late because he got caught in traffic or something like that.
Alex Storch, if you don't know who we're talking about, he puts on these Resurrection Vex of the UK, some of the best events. If you're in the UK, you should go get into it if you're into 6. But sorry, go on. What armies did he? But he is good at what he does. Yeah,
because I'd got my Nurgle Daemons for that for that event because it was the first time I'd bought them, and I'll tell you about kind of where the army came from in a minute, but. He'd kind of got his Ringer army and he just put a standard Wood Elf list together. It was one of those games
that's annoying when it's a standard list. It's not. Do you know what I mean? Like a crazy strong list. Yeah, he's got a standard. Yeah, that's annoying.
It was a standard Wood Elf list. There was some Glade Guard, there was some Wild Riders, there was a Tree Man Ancient, there was some Wizards, there was some War Dancers, some Dryads. It's like you look at it and go, that's Wood Elves, but. It was one of those games that was really nip and tuck and really tactical, and I only lost it slightly, but it was one of those where things keep on going backwards and forwards. It's like I've had a really good turn, I'm in the ascendancy, he battles back and does something. I then countered with something else. It was the same as the game that I just played with him at the weekend against his Orcs and Goblins.
The best ones where like it comes down to the last round sometimes type ones.
And that was the thing with that Orc and Goblin game. Turn 6, everything needed to go perfectly for me, and it went absolutely perfectly. But then on his turn, everything needed to go perfectly for him, and it went absolutely perfectly. It was mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah, no, that's because you learn a new thing from next time. It's supposed to be the edge of your seat. So, but that's why I get obsessed with the game. It's just like me, as you say, me and you had a 4,000 point game and something like that, didn't we? And
whatever it was, it was a silly amount of points, but it was just a case of how much can we reasonably fit on a 6-foot table? Right, we'll do that then.
But you don't. That's right. I'm not going to get angry because you won that one, but I'm not going. Which wasn't a surprise, but it's kind of. But I've never. When was the last time you had a 4,000 point game and you get to use units that you never could fit into that 2,000 point army? You're always trying to squeeze something in.
Exactly. You take a load of random stuff, don't you?
Some stuff that you would probably never use because it's like, oh, that's shit. But you might not have the points, so you're going to have to use that unit and stuff like that. That's when it comes. That's when it really comes from. But let's get into the. So why did we choose? So you got into after the Wood Elf phase and all these phases. So you came across the Daemon Legion. What was that? What was that like?
Well, it's what happened was because when we started back in 6th edition in Derby, I I decided I wasn't going to play Wood Elves because we know that we know all about Wood Elves. They're a horrifically strong book, and generally people want to play for fun. And also the way that Wood Elves play with avoidance and running around people and not letting them get charges off and all that sort of stuff. It's not really fun for people, especially if you know what you're doing with them, essentially. So I thought, I'll fall back to Chaos. Chaos is always a good, pretty good middle ground for everyone. It's walk forward and it's someone, basically. And so I've been building a giant, Hordes of Chaos army. I mean, you've seen my Chaos collection. It's massive, now, and it's still growing for Nurgle. And naturally, I just picked Nurgle.
Was there a reason for Nurgle in particular, or was it the lore? Was it the actual tactics? Was it the gifts or the magic, or was it just the way they looked on the models? Do you know what I mean?
Nurgle's always been my default god. I think is the best thing to say. I like the lore because with Nurgle, he's quite a happy god, really. He's a bit like Gork and Mork. He just wants to infect people with disease. He just wants to put some diseases in a pot, infect someone with it, and see what happens and giggle about it.
And he's not. Do you like Zine Shaw? So that, what's the word? Being secretive about it.
They're all scheming and everything, twiddling the moustaches and all that. So Nurgle's like, I don't care. It's a bit like Khorne, Khorne doesn't care. He just wants to hit people. Nurgle just wants to mess around with stuff. But obviously, generally all of his followers are quite happy and all that sort of stuff. They're reveling in the filth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, they've all, look at their models. They've all got smiles on their faces.
Exactly. That.
Yeah,
they're really horribly diseased and malformed, but they're loving it. Yeah. And it's kind of like, from a lore perspective, it's like they're part of the generally evil people, but they're loving it. They're not loving it because they're genuinely evil. They're just loving it because they're just loving life, essentially. It's just a brilliant way to look at it. And also with the modelling opportunities with Nurgle, because Khorne guys, it's a dude in armor.
No,
it's
you're
a dude
right.
in armor with a big axe and some skulls on him. Whereas Nurgle, you can be a bit more creative. As you know, obviously, especially now with having the printer and everything. But even before that, it was like, I like that model. I'll buy it and find a use for it. Will it be a giant? Will it be a unit filler? It doesn't matter.
You've taken big weird worm creatures and put them on the end of a chariot and stuff like that, haven't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's like, I've got maggots pulling chariots, or I've got like horribly disease mutated trolls and everything. Even though they can't have the mark of Nurgle, but they just look thematic. Or my next one is making Marauder cavalry out of zombies and snails.
I like it. No.
So it's like, but you can just take things that you can take things that are generally diseased or generally malformed and just find a way to use them.
Because I was talking to somebody the other week, because I think somebody was talking about how, my Chaos Fimir army, it's all based around Albion and stuff like that, but it's not the strongest Chaos list at all. And people say, well, if you did this and make it ridiculously strong, but I'd be like, yeah, but that wouldn't be my army. It would be unique. And I'm trying to all my generals always a bit convert. I like them, especially when you go to an event or something. There's nothing more depressing, which I kind of found with Dark Elves a lot, where you'd paint them and you'd turn up at an event and somebody would have almost the same army as you. Do you know what I mean? Slightly different painted, maybe a little bit.
It's like with my Dark Elves, I'm trying to find a slightly different way to paint them, and I figured out what I'm going to do with them now. But it's just trying to make them slightly different to everyone else's Dark Elf army, because Dark Elves generally they come in black, purple, and silver, don't they? Those are the three main colours for Dark Elves, essentially. And like you say, with your Fimir, it does. And this is the good thing about playing the game nowadays. You're not interested in the meta armies at all. Everyone remembers rattling gun spam. Everyone remembers the vampire count armies of Doom. Everyone remembers the dwarf gun lines or whatever it is. But generally, when you find to go to these things, no one really plays that sort of stuff anymore.
No, because it's not, and it's not fun to win with them. Like the first, if you got 6 games in a weekend, the first one you're probably like, yeah. Second one you're like, okay, keep going. But surely that 4th and 5th one you're like, oh. Do you know what I mean? You can't be delighted with it. So I think it's that weird thing.
The old better armies, no. But I noticed. I mean, you look at last weekend at Resurrection. There was 2 Dark Elves. Sure, Vermeer, Moss's Chaos, which was, you know, a completely different Chaos list or whatever.
It wasn't full of armor. It's full of monsters and ogres and minotaurs.
Exactly. You got all monsters and gribblies and everything. Who else did you have? I mean, you had James with Dogs of War, but he was using, you know, actual name Dogs of War units. You know, you've got the Goldfags Ogres, the Pirates, the Blondrons, the Lost Legion, Lumping Crooks, Fighting Cocks, all that sort of stuff.
And when you come up against an army and like that, you get a little excited a little bit. Do you know if you're playing the standard army that you see a million times, when you see one which is like, oh wow, I haven't seen that since blah blah blah, or somebody
exactly. I was sitting there.
Where'd you get that model from and all that? I love that stuff.
I was playing that bloody playing that Dogs of War army. I was sitting there going, I'm so jealous he's got all these lovely models. I want all of them. I want all of them.
Yeah, they would be. There would be a fortune if you tried to get them off on eBay or something.
Easily a grand £1,500 worth of models at nowadays prices.
Easy price, yeah.
I used to have a 5th edition Dogs of War army, and it got sold at some point, you know, when I was a teenager. And adult me now wants to strangle teenagers.
Yeah, no, everybody's got so many stories about that. I got rid of so much, and I had an original. My brother bought, and it's not Warhammer, but with the same thing, my mum got rid of half of our Warhammer stuff and then an original Millennium Falcon toy from 1982.
One of the Kenner ones.
Yeah, so it was like brand new. So my mum basically got rid of everything in the attic. I probably sold like 10, like something you could get for like 10 grand on. but that's the story of everybody. It's like we all turned into like most people like go to the uni way or got their job and all that, and then you get on with it. But
I mean, a lot of it with being a kid was selling other stuff to fund new projects and everything like that, which is traditionally, especially with the advent of eBay and everything, it was the way you did it. You sold your old army to buy a new one.
Yeah, that's right. And but yeah, so just in case somebody's never really played the Demons, so we'll get into units in a minute, but what's the differences really between the Horde, like the hordes of chaos compared to demon-only armies?
Demon armies fall into two camps, essentially. You've got the Hordes of Chaos version and the Demonic Legion. Hordes of Chaos, the reason that I enjoy collecting Chaos as well is you've got 3 army lists to choose from, because you've got your Beasts of Chaos stuff, you've got your Human, your Mortal Chaos stuff, and then you've got your Demons. And generally with Chaos, you can just mix all 3 together into a giant hodgepodge, and, you know, hopefully something good will come out of it. But with Demons in Hordes of Chaos specifically, obviously, they get... If you've got a demonic general, that means your demons are your core choices, but you then get, you get a limited number of core choices. So, obviously, you should be playing Mono God. I did listen to the episode with Max, and I do agree with him. You know, people that don't play Mono God Chaos armies are sadists and weirdos that should be locked up.
Perverts.
So, exactly. So, obviously, like if you pick your Nurgle, then in terms of your core choices, you've got Nurglings and Plague Bearers. If you pick Khorne, you've only got Bloodletters and Fleshhounds, etc., etc., etc. But your special choices then your special and rare choices then get opened up into the wonderful world of all the rest of it. So, yeah, if you want some skirmishing, if you want some other skirmishing stuff that's not Nurglings, you can bring in Beast Herds. If you want something really hard hitting, you can take a unit of Chosen Knights as a special choice and all that sort of stuff. But the rules also change slightly. So, for example, in the Hordes of Chaos book, they use what you would call the standard demon rules. So, magic is negated by its ward save. They have a point lower of leadership, and for people that don't know about demonic instability works a little bit like Vampires Crumbling with a few extra steps in it, essentially. So if you lose combat with a demon unit, you roll on your unmodified leadership, so say it'd be 8 or something like that, and if you roll over 8, so if you roll a 9, 10, 11 or 12, the demon unit disappears. It's gone. It's dead fully.
Yeah.
If you roll equal to or under it, you then apply combat resolution to that roll that you've made, and then that many demons die to represent them losing their grip on the mortal world, essentially. Yeah. And obviously, if you roll over it, they've lost it completely, and they pop is the general term. But what that does mean is you can have cheaper heroes. So like you could take an aspiring champion of chaos, which is like their cheapest hero, which is like 80 points, and you can give him a magic item that makes him a demonic general.
Yeah.
So you can have like a 100-point character, so you could get more points for for stuff, more points for stuff essentially.
Yeah.
And so that's the Hordes of Chaos version. It's good, but a lot of the time with it, demons become the liability of it, because one bad combat roll and they're gone. The unit's gone.
Especially if you've got a big unit as well. It's like
exactly.
Points heavy.
It's like a big unit of plague bearers is like 350, 400 points.
And that can pop in one round of combat.
Exactly. and that's the problem, and that is the problem with it, which is why pre the Storm of Chaos you never really saw pure demon armies at all. People may have added some, and it's like Flesh Hounds are really good in a Chaos Knight army, for example, because especially in a Cord Knight army, because they can sit in front of the Knight units, they're immune to psychology, and they can be frenzy baited away so that the Knights aren't frenzy baited, so then they can go and charge something, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only 80 points for 5, so you're not going to care if they pop. But then the Storm of Chaos rolled round, and obviously with the background for Storm of Chaos, obviously Chaos magic is falling all over the old world, so the demons have a bit more of a stronger grip on reality. Essentially, they can manifest in the old world and in the Warhammer world a little bit easier. So they then got their upgraded rules, which is the Demonic Legion, and this is the pure demon army essentially. So
you can only get this in the Storm of Chaos. Well, yeah. PDF. You can find a PDF of it online if you can't find an actual book from eBay or whatever.
It's a Storm of Chaos supplement, and it's a pure demon army. So you can't have any mortal or human, mortal or beast of chaos in it. You only get demons, but they tweaked the rules for them slightly. So instead of it, the ward save that demons get being negated by magic, it's just a blanket ward save. So every unit in your army comes with a 5-up ward save as standard. They also increased every demon's leadership by a point. So instead of being leadership 8, you're leadership 9. So that relatively high chance of you popping now becomes quite a lot. Now is only a 25% chance instead of 35 or.
It kind of makes a huge, even though it's 1 point, that kind of makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
It's an insane difference because you can now comfortably roll average and still be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got to roll equal to or under average all the time with the normal rules. But they also introduced increased troop types. So instead of, say, for Nurgle, you've just got Plague Bearers and Nurglings, you then get the Chariot, you get Plague Riders as well. Khorne got the Blood Crushers and their Demon Chariot. Kind of all 4 flavors of demons got their own chariot. They got their own kind of monstrous cavalry. So, Bloodletters on Juggernauts, Plague Bearers on Beasts of Chaos, on Beasts of Nurgle. Flamers on Tzeentch Flamers on discs of Tzeentch flying around, and Slanesh Demonettes on boob worms and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But they also introduced a new hero type, because previously within Hordes of Chaos you only had your Lord choice, which was a Demon Prince, who is like a rare Lord and a hero slot, I believe. And then you also have the Exalted Demon, which is like a mini Demon Prince essentially. Same sort of stat line, flies, all that sort of stuff, but he was 2 hero choices. So they also introduced the Demonic Herald. So it's like your little baby demon general essentially. So it's like an elevated.
Can it be the Lord of your army, a herald, or is it more the hero?
Not in the Demonic Legion. Only an exalted demon or a demon prince can be your general, or a greater demon if you really want to sink some points into it. But what the Herald allows you to do is take him as the Battle Standard Bearer, and the Battle Standard Bearer then allows you to re-roll your demonic instability.
Oh, right. Now you're talking.
Yeah. So as you can see, you're going from troop types that are a massive liability in your army because there's a very high chance of them just disappearing and you're just like signing over 350, 400 victory points to your opponent, to these units are not going anywhere.
Especially when you have I'm right, the demonic pop and all that actually go with the greater demons as well. So if you get a clean one, it can pop.
Yeah,
so that's going to be a nightmare, because I never really think about that. It's like, you can, because you always go, great and clean one, wound 10 wounds or whatever, but you realise, if you actually beat him in combat, he could pop. I suppose that's your only chance. We'll get into that in a bit, but anybody listening going, that's actually a point you could get. But if you have that, as I was saying, if you put how many points into that and you roll, having that BSB very close by can come in very handy,
Exactly. So the BSB provides a nice bubble to kind of limit that, but it allows you to re-roll the demonic instability no matter what you roll. So say if you've got a unit of 4 demons left, for example, because this is also what you've got to remember is all demons are effectively unbreakable.
Yeah.
Say if you've got 4 left and you've lost combat by, I don't know, let's say you've lost combat by 4. So you know that you need to roll on leadership 9, you need to roll a 5 or under to not suffer any wounds and keep the unit there and not let them die. Let's say if you roll a 7, or let's say you roll a 9, so you know the entire unit's going to crumble, but you still passed your demonic instability. The BSB still allows you to re-roll that, so you can try and get a lower number if you want.
Yeah, that's handy. Because my Chaos army, the only demons I have are Furies, and Furies can be great for bloody... their job at the end of the day is to get artillery and maybe the odd necromancer or wizard or whatever. But the amount of times they pop because their leadership is like they're just essentially flying hounds, really. But they pop. They do pop a lot. If they run into the wrong people, they pop.
They're Furies are great for the things that they are designed for, because they're designed for war machine hunting, mage hunting, and march blocking.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
They're not there to go into 20 Empire swordsmen and tear them to shreds. They're never going to in the slightest. But they're very good for fighting other small units like fast cav, that sort of thing. It's like I love flinging my Furies into Dark Riders that come close or something like that, because
well they get charged. They get charged a lot if they're nearby and somebody's in bad. They do go for me Furies. Can the demons, because they're essentially breakable, can they choose to flee? No, so they've got to stand there.
Yeah, because all demons are immune to psychology. They can never flee. They just have to stand there and take it like a champ.
Because I used to do that with my harpies, because I often look at harpies and furies very similar. The harpies have got two attacks and the furies have got the ward save. But I used to do that a lot with harpies. It's kind of like march block, bait something, and then run away. But can't do it. Can't do that with these.
You can't do that with demons. You've got to be a little bit more. You got to be a little bit more clever with them.
So you kind of have the typical list of all the demons to include, but what's your typical list? If you're going to like a 2,000 to between 2,000 and 2,500, should we say? Because a lot of events are either 2,000, 2,250 or 2,500. What are you personally tend to be bringing?
So, doing that, you look at the general strengths and weaknesses of the demon list. It's like, what are your strengths? You're never taking a psychology test. You don't care about fear. You don't care about terror. Nothing. And your entire army also causes fear and terror, so you can use psychology as a massive weapon. And the good thing is with demons as well, is that you can build them to any play style. The issue with them, though, is that, oh god, they're expensive.
Right. Yeah.
It's like your basic plague bearer is 16 points. Every of the demon troops is 16 points. So they're ludicrously expensive. The basic troops are very expensive compared to like buying an orc or something like that. An orc's half the price of a demon or something like that. And the characters, oh god, the characters. I mean, your average demon prince are easily 400 points, and you could make them nearly 600 points if you really want to.
Yeah.
Like your Zinch ones, because the marker Zinch is so expensive because it makes them a level 4 wizard. It's like 75, 80 points or something like that for the marker Zinch on a demon print. Then you add another 100 points worth of demonic gifts. But my standard list revolves around 2 big blocks of plague bearers. So depending on the points level, if we say 2250, it'll be 2 big blocks of 20.
Okay.
And one of those units will have an item called the Unholy Icon, which is the demon's like special magic banner, which increases that one unit's ward save from a 5 up to a 4 up.
Oh, I can make it. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah.
So, especially with Nurgle Daemons as well, one of the main strengths.
Sorry. I was just going to say, so you have a good ward with the -1 to hit for the cloud of flies on plague bearers, right?
That's literally what I was just going to say. The one thing one of the greatest strengths about Nurgle Demons, especially, is cloud of flies.
Yeah.
It is a blanket -1 to hit all of your troops.
Is that all? Is that not just plague bearers and nurglings? Is it every
It's plague bearers, nurglings, plague riders, and the chariots. You've got to pay for it on the Demon Prince and the Demonic Herald if you want it.
Right.
The Demon Prince is like weapon skill 9 or something stupid like that anyway. So
I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. But so 9 times out of 10, let's say, and the important thing is you combine that with the fact that the Plague Bearers, for example, are weapon skill 4. So most basic infantry in the game are hitting them on 5s.
Yeah.
Just to start with.
Yeah. Any goblins, Skaven.
Goblins, Skaven,
everything apart from Chaos and Elves, really. Yeah.
Chaos and Elves, and
Lizardmen. No, Lizardmen are 3. They're straight tough. Or Lizardmen?
I can't remember. I don't play Lizardmen.
But most of them.
Yeah, but most of them. But you then combine that with toughness 4.
Mm-hmm.
You then combine that with a 5-foot ward save.
Or 4 up on your occasion.
Or 4 up on the 1 unit. Yeah. They don't die. You can. I have taken charges
near the BSB as well. Do you keep the BSB close to those units?
Oh yeah. The BSB hugs those 2 units it just hugs them and stays with them. I've taken charges from Dragon Princes, Black Knights, Dragons, you name it. It's probably been charged by those Plague Bearers, and they couldn't care less. They just couldn't care. It just goes into them. They don't care because they've killed 1 or 2, and that's it.
Yeah.
By the end of it, and that is the greatest strength of the Nurgle Demon list is the -1 to hit. When you read it originally, and this was what happened when I did to begin with, you think that's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, I started. I think I've told you this before. Where I used to be obsessed with if there's any magic. I'm upset. I wanted the destructive magic. Do you know, like the magic missiles, the black horror, stuff that sucks things into. But then there's this, because I play with the dark emissary a lot, don't I? And there's this one more, because everybody talks about the fog of death, which is all units, blah, blah, blah. But there's one, which was often the one where, I've got a couple of power dice left and everything else is kind of out of range. And that's the -1 to hit spell. I'll genuinely say that spell has won me more games than the spells that wipe everybody out. It's just because it's going up against the 1, especially if you're playing like Chaos Warriors with weapon skill 5 and stuff like that. You forget, and it's another thing where I suppose my opponents are waiting for those smashy spells where they don't dispel it. So you start seeing how bloody hell this makes a massive. So I was doing it. If you do get in the habit of doing it every turn, but if you have an army which just naturally does that, just from my personal experience, you can see that would be an utter pain in the arse because I can see the other person getting frustrated.
It's insane. It's insane. As I say, when you're taking something that should be hitting you on 3s and it goes to 4s, and then 4s on dice are incredibly swingy.
Yeah.
Because I know if you roll enough dice, it averages it out. But if you're only rolling 5 attacks or something like that, you've only got to have 1 bad round of combat, and you will miss 4 out of the 5 attacks for rolling for hitting on 4s. Whereas if you were hitting on 3s, you would probably hit 3 or 4 of those. And it swings combat so much because that's the problem with Nurgle Daemons, and it's why I started looking at other lists. Like I built Khorne Army as well, is because they don't kill anything at all, or they don't really kill anything. The Nurgle Daemons play very much a vampire counts where they are looking to beat you by 1, outnumber you, and run you down.
Yeah.
To get the outnumber by a fear-causing enemy, and that's the. And that's the struggle also with a lot of people, with obviously because you're not going in and you're not annihilating things in combat, and you're not cutting great swathes of people down. You're poking one guy to death and then eating the rest of the unit. But yeah, so going back to this, so we've got those 2 big blocks of Plague Bearers, and they are your battle line essentially. And then you have 2 units. I usually have 2 units of 3 Nurglings because Nurglings, I don't care what anyone says, are the best swarm in the game.
You can't fly past Nurglings. We have to talk about Nurglings because They're the ones I'm ridiculously jealous of.
When soapbox about Nurglings.
I fucking love Nurgle. It was the only way because I haven't turned. There was a moment where I was going to turn my Fimmer into Nurgle, but a lot of people that I know, like you, I know a couple of like Phil, who've talked on the podcast. He's a Nurgle beastman, so it's kind of like I thought, oh, I'll try because I did try Slaanesh Fimmer for a while, thinking that. Gross.
Well, they are the rapey people, aren't they? So.
They're pretty rapey, and I thought something that was like really gross monster, but they kind of have this sexy magic. There's something funny about that. But it got too expensive.
Some dangerous images.
Yeah, but it was too expensive, so mine are undivided. But I was literally willing to put a mark on my general just so I could get Nurglings, because every time I've seen you play with them, I see you could throw any knights into a unit of 4 bases of Nurglings, and they'll probably be fine. I suppose you can make them pop, but again, with the BSB nearby and all that, it's because they just got how many wounds? If I roll into 4 bases of Nurglings,
they've got 4 each.
With the -1 to hit, with the 5 up ward. They cause fear as well, don't they? Of course
they do. Yeah, they're a demon. The really funny part about Nurglings is that unlike most swarms, their weapon skills 3, their strength 3, and their toughness 3.
Yeah.
So whereas most swarms are toughness 2, strength 2, that sort of stuff.
Like
Nurglings can actually fight in combat. I mean, my Nurglings have beaten Minotaurs in combat. I'm not even kidding, and run them down. They've done some absolutely insane things that you would never expect a 40-point swarm to do at all.
Yeah.
The last time I played Tom, for example, with his Strigoi, he charged both of his units of Black Knights went into the 2 Nurglings each. So you got the one unit with the banner of the barrows, always hitting on 3s and everything like that, and you got the other unit units that not. Those 6 Nurgling bases tanked 2 units of Black Knights for the entire game.
That's their job, isn't it? They're not murderers, even though they do surprisingly amount of damage.
Yeah.
But they're just a wall of slimy nonsense to just get in the way and ruin everybody's day. Because I honestly would if I played you, I would plan around the Nurgling. If it's a bigger game and I see a great unclean one, I've got to watch out for these things. But literally, my brain would be going, "Oh, which way is this fucking Nurglings going?" Because that means my army can't go in that direction, or got to go around. Or
one of these days, I'm going to weird you out, and when you come over for a game or something, and we're going to play a big game, I'm just not going to take any Nurgling swarms.
No, yeah, I'd be furious. I think
it'll break your brain.
But I have seen armies without Nurglings. So I would, even if it's if you got a Nurgle mortal army. If you don't have the only demons you have are a unit of Nurgle, I'd say you're mental, because they make such a difference, and they get so in the way of.
Yeah, that's the thing. The thing is they skirmish. They're only movement 4. They march 8, all that sort of stuff, whatever. But you can just use them to protect the flanks of your big blocks and run off and just go and get stuck into something that you want to keep over the other side of the board for a while. Yeah. And they'll do that job magnificently. And in some cases, they may even beat it in combat and kill it. And if they do, good job, lads. Yeah. I love Nurglings. They are the best in the game by any stretch. You can keep your chosen knights. You can keep your guys on dragons. You can keep your level 4 wizards. Nurglings are where it's at.
But yeah, no. Anyway, if you're going to take one thing, I'd say, from this podcast, then you're Chaos. Make an excuse to make a mark somewhere just so you can bring some Nurglings with you. But
definitely.
And if you're doing a demon army and you don't have them, you've got something wrong with you. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? If you go for all the fancy flying stuff, you've got something wrong with you. And you deserve to. What happens to you? You deserve that.
We're gonna have to make you a T-shirt now, David. Just a Nurgling with the thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a great T-shirt.
But then we move
with the tagline underneath him saying, "There's 2 turns of combat wasted," something like that.
Oh, there we go. There's the first piece of merch for the podcast.
There you go. I'll note that down. But sorry. What else is in your list?
Rest of the list. So then you've got. Then I will make space for at least 3 to 4 plague riders. which is essentially, it's a plague bearer on the back of a beast of Nurgle. This is the guys that I put on maggots, because there was never really any model for them in 6th edition at all. You know, a lot of the chaos stuff from Storm of Chaos was, you know, I just converted it myself, because you know, obviously back then Games Workshop actually wanted you to convert things and do fun stuff with your army and not just use the standard currently, you know, CAD designed lovely plastic thing. So I found these maggots.
I remember I was talking to, I think it was Ed, where he was saying, like, he had a really good point where around that time Games Workshop had that sweet Lord of the Rings money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, whatever, do what you want. So it kind of like opened up the, because I think you know, like, they should, realizing everybody's got 3D printers now, I don't get why they don't sell lots of well, I suppose they won't do it because they'll lose lots of money, but have like STL only models. Ones, we're not going to print these at all, so you can buy these ones you can only get from us, but here's these designs that we won't print, help yourself. So, but sorry, let's soapbox for a minute, but but you know, no, but you're right. But I actually like that, where it's kind of like, because I'm anytime I can't quite find a model, like, oh great, that's an opportunity to find something cool. Do you know what I mean?
And then it's normally, Matt, can you print this out for me, please?
yeah.
But the Plague Riders, as I say, I found these maggots from a company called Heresy Miniatures. They're just some weird, monstrous maggots. I assume they're probably for use in D&D or something like that.
Yeah.
We got them, stuck a plague bearer on the back, and they look like demonic Nurgle cavalry. Because if you're going to have, you know, like beasts of Nurgle or something like that, then you want like, you know, naturally I thought maggots, flies, that, you know, that sort of thing. It's things that you generally associate with, you know, disease and rot, essentially. So, but they're kind of like your heavy hitting list. I mean, they're cavalry, but they're only movement 6, so they're not very fast. And this is the other thing about Nurgle: it's not a fast army at all. You essentially spend the first 2 turns of the game just walking the enemy down. You're just walking forward. My first 2 turns are so quick. But when these guys get into combat, they have
there's not a lot of shooting in Nurgle, should we say? Is it?
Well, you can have one shooting attack, but it's pointless.
What's that? Just out of it, is it the Spawn of Chaos? No, that's the
Stream of Corruption.
Oh,
Plague template. You know, they vomit on you or whatever. The Great and Clean one comes with it as standard. So if I've got a Great and Clean one, I'll use it, but I won't give it to a demon printer or anything. But yeah, these Plague Riders have got D6 plus 2 strength for poisoned attacks each.
That's the poison attack. The poison. Everything else isn't important. Anything with poison, like. I was playing vampire counts at the moment. Everybody makes a big fuss of everything else. Oh, ghouls aren't nothing. But if you get ghouls in, roll some dice, something's going to happen. Lizard men, you have skinks. You get them. Exactly. Everybody thinks skinks are little wimps. How many times have I been wiped out by standing and shooting skinks?
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And the thing is with them, they've got that many attacks. So you're rolling, it feels like you're playing current edition 40k or current edition, you know, Age of Sigmar or whatever, because it's all about rolling buckets of dice. And you know, if you roll like 24 attacks or anything, you're picking up all these dice, because normally in fantasy battle, you know, you get 4 or 5 attacks in combat or something like that. You're not really rolling many dice. When you pick up this giant bucket of dice and throw it at someone, they're like, what the hell is this nonsense? It's brilliant.
That's what you don't care. He might have the worst stats in the world, but the fact that this guy's picked up 2 handfuls of dice, that instantly makes you go, hang on, what's happening?
You're cheating, surely. And you're like, no. Here's the rules. They're brilliant, but they're the heavy hitters. But you're probably noticing a theme through all of this as well, and this is one of the other weaknesses about Nurgle, is there's not a lot of stuff that can break through armor. You know, Nurglings are strength 3, Plague Bearers are strength 4, your Plague Riders are strength 4 as well. If I will also normally take a Nurgle Chariot as well. That's your rare choice, because it's a toughness 5 chariot. It's slow. It's still movement 6 like the Plague Riders as well, but it's got a Beast of Nurgle on the front of it, so it has D6 plus 1 poison attacks from it. It's then got 2 Plague Bearers on the back, and it's strength 5 with its impact hits.
So are they? So usually, say you got a big unit of armored knights coming at you. What's your plan usually? Is it the chariot? Is it put Nurglings in front of them? It's what?
Put Nurglings in front of it is my general thing. But where you make up for that is then when you go into your hero selections. So the first thing that is always in the list is a herald with the mark of Nurgle, so he gets 3 wounds instead of 2, because that's what he does for demons.
Yeah.
For mortal chaos, the mark of Nurgle causes fear, but obviously I already cause fear, so they give you an extra wound instead.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
With the Battle Standard Bearer upgrade and the Spellbreaker demonic gift for a dispel scroll, because I don't run any wizards at all in my list at all. It's so expensive to get a wizard that it's just not worth it.
Is there no? Yeah, there's nothing which is just like a level 1 of anything either, is there? So just
only thing that you can do is you can give a demon prince up to 4 levels of magic for 35 points each. So if you want him to be a level 4 wizard, that's an extra 140 points on top of his already exorbitant points, already ridiculous points card. And then you've only got 1 level 4, so you haven't got like the level 2s or the level 1s to generate extra power dice for him to cast the spells that you want.
It's why your turn 1 and 2 just flies by, because you literally just move. You'll go.
Just forward, you'll go. So if it's a Lord level, if it's 2250, I'm taking the Demon Prince. He then obviously gets the Mark of Nurgle, because he's got to have it. But then I give him the Blade of the Ether demonic gift, which is a standard demonic gift. It's not from the Nurgle one. And that
which one does that do? Oh, right, yeah.
Ignores armor saves. Then you give him Diabolic Splendor, so he's 5 up ward save, becomes a 4 up ward save. Not that I ever passed the bloody thing, but that's just that's just one of those things that happens. Yeah. And then I also give him Soul Hunger, and Soul Hunger allows you to re-roll all misses in the first round of combat.
Right.
So he is your Night Killer.
Yeah.
Anything with a decent armor save, tarp at it with Nurglings, slam him into them.
They fly Demon Princes as well, don't they? So you could get behind them and then charge.
Yes, and that's also the thing. The Demon Prince or the Exalted Demon give you open up other options that you can do with him. It's like the first couple of turns normally he's spent flying around. If I can, let's say if I'm playing Lizard Men or if I'm playing Orcs and Goblins or whatever, because he causes terror, I'm flying around terror bombing people.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times that like you'll land next to a unit of skinks and go boom, and they'll run off the board. Because they're trying to get around the flanks or anything, or something like that. Or you land in the midst of a load of goblins, if they don't have fanatics, of course. You land in the midst of a load of goblins, and their entire army just scatters away from this demon prince. It's one of the things that you learn playing demons as well, especially with 6th edition, is how much you can use psychology as a weapon in the game.
Do you just mean in terms of what's coming at you and how to avoid, or not understanding what you've got? Because sometimes the model looks scarier than the stat type.
Well, no, it's the fear and terror, because you've got the Demon Prince or the greater demons that can fly around and make things run away from them. It's like you can land next to a cannon crew; they'll run off the board.
Yeah,
that's a cannon gone, so you haven't got to worry about something getting sniped out. If
you don't have to, you also don't have to waste a turn charging it, attacking it.
Yeah,
and then trying to move back into you can get on with his day, so to speak.
Yeah, he can get on with his day, murder something, basically, which is what he's there to do. But also with things that are charging you, for example, let's say you've got your block of Plague Bearers lined up and 3 Goblin Wolf Chariots want to charge it, and they're outside range of the General's leadership if he's an Orc, because Orcs have got decent leadership. Only one of those chariots will make it in on Goblin leadership from the fear test.
Yes, Matt. The logic. I always like to think the logic of maths. It doesn't seem to work with me. It usually goes the worst way. But you're right. In terms of averages, it's going to happen, isn't it?
In terms of averages, that's going to happen. So you use it in such a way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's got really high leadership. You've got like your Bretonians and all that sort of stuff, or if your Empire's in range of your Elect account or whatever, or your Elves in general, they've got really high leaderships. But
they run though. All of my armies have been like my main army's really been Empire, Dark Elves, and Chaos. All good lead. You'll be surprised how many of those fuckers leg it in a game. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. But the thing is what you're trying to do is you wanting to put your opponent in the position that's forcing them to take the test, because if you're forcing them to take the test, there is a chance that they will fail.
Yeah.
And
if you keep doing it, I suppose it's terror test only once, but if you
with
just
fear,
yeah.
because if you fail a fear test, that unit isn't doing anything for that turn because they're too scared of the smelly demon standing in front of them. And that's the thing. Your opponent will. Sometimes it will be a charge that won't matter. Other times it will be a game-breaking charge. My unit of sword masters are going to go careening into your plague bearers, and you go, oh bugger, I failed my field test. I failed my fear test.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to ram a chariot into the flank of them then because they're still out in the open.
Yeah.
And I'll charge both, break them. Then they've normally got the banner of sorcery, so that's a massive point swing for me. And also, I've lost their magic banner that generates some extra power dice. Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when I mean using psychology as a weapon, because if you play, the good thing is if you're playing something like vampire counts as well, it also becomes a weapon because their one rule and the thing they're relying on,
their strength is gone.
Their strength is gone because you're using the fact that you're immune to psychology against them. And when it comes up to a fight between a plague bearer or a skeleton, the plague bearer wins.
Yeah, and then their toughness too comes in handy, and the zombie. Well, you never want to go combat with zombies too much, but they rely on it a lot, don't they? The fear part of it in terms of daring you to come at them and things like that, which you've usually got to do with the vampire count army if they're not coming straight at you. Then that could.
And I mean, you say about kind of like my list and what's typical. I don't really see very many other people. I've seen a couple of people that have run Slanesh demons. I know at the Chaos Rising a couple of weeks ago, I played a guy that was playing Khorne demons, but I don't see Nurgle demons an awful lot at all. A lot of people play Nurgle. Tom's got the Minotaurs, Phil's got his like generic Beast of Chaos army and everything, but you don't really see a lot of Nurgle demons. But because I've taken them to so many events, tournaments, all that sort of stuff, you just start tweaking the list and all that sort of stuff. Like I did at one point. I dropped the Mark of Nurgle on the Battle Standard bearer and made him an undivided character, so I could take a unit of Furies in the list to try those out, because I think I don't want my Demon Prince having to fly off and eat war machines, because it's just a waste of what he's there to do.
Yeah, I used to do that with like when I had dragons and things like that with the Dark Elves. It's just it's important to get rid of those things, but he could be killing more important. Yeah, he should be in there with a Lord or something.
Yeah, he should be on like a Titanic duel with the other guy's Lord or something like that. He shouldn't be curb stomping a cannon.
Yeah, and the amount of times my Furies have charged artillery and not even have to fight them, they just ran away because they fear them. So and often if somebody's made the mistake of putting two artillery next to each other, you don't even have to then charge again. You could just straight overrun into them as well. Yeah. And then you can say like, right, and at that point anybody could murder them, because you're like, if they've got rid of two artillery things, that's his points worth. Surely. So yeah, having all of those points going chasing the bloody cannon, also, which you could argue is the only thing that could probably kill it in some armies. You know what I mean? But
yeah, but it's 2-3 turns that the guy's taken out of the game, so he's going to get back into one combat and swing it, and then that's about it. It's kind of like, I kind of don't want to be doing that with my Demon Prince, but I played around with that for a while, but I then dropped them because I was like, no, it's got to be pure Nurgle Demons. You can't be kind of like diluting it with other gods stuff.
Cleaning it. You're just cleaning it rather than making it dirtier.
Yeah, exactly.
Cleaning the list. Don't do that.
I don't want clean demons in my army. Go away.
So is there anything else you're missing in you? I think that's all of the.
No. That's the thing about demons, is they've got really limited troop types. You've got your infantry block, your like swarmy type thing, like well, in some cases your swarmy type thing, but your extra thing. So it's like Khorne have flesh hounds, Slanesh has the mounted demonettes, Tzeentch has flamers, and Nurgle has the Nurglings. You get your monstrous cavalry, which is your plague riders, and then you get your chariot, and that's it. That is literally it, and your characters. Oh, the only other thing that you're missing is the greater demons, obviously. Which I know you've got a specific question about those about those in a minute, but obviously I do sometimes flick between taking the Great and Clean one or a Demon Prince. The Great and Clean one's great. He brings a bit of magic because he comes as a level 4 wizard as standard for his points. He's ludicrously tough. He's got a bucket of wounds and all that sort of stuff. But
is it 10 wounds? It's 10,
10,
isn't it?
yeah, 10. But the problem is, and this is what I found with Nurgle Demons. It's a bit different when you're taking a Bloodthirster, because a Bloodthirster flies.
Yeah.
A Bloodthirster flies, and he's a one-man army, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, if you're taking a Bloodthirster, you're essentially hoping that the Bloodthirster annihilates an army on his own, which is Gambling.
Yeah.
Whereas the Great and Clean one, he's slow. He's movement 4 like the rest of them. He doesn't have wings and things like that. So you've already got a ridiculously slow army, and that pretty much only quick element that you've got in the Demon Prince is gone.
And you've got to kind of work out those 4 spells, what's going to do more damage into a Demon Prince getting into everybody through an entire game, or 6 turns of using those spells. Is that kind of like in terms of and what's the points difference between the two?
About 200 with my Demon Prince. I think he's about 410 points roughly tooled up with all the stuff, with the mark and the demonic gifts and everything.
And you include about 600.
600. 600, and yeah, I think he's the one that's 600 points flat, but that's just because he doesn't fly.
Yeah, so I suppose I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Maybe if you thought of him as a massive nurgling, do you know what I mean? Just getting him to just get in the way, I suppose. Would that be more his use rather than just like guys, I dare you to move him and just put him in the middle of the army, sort of?
Well, my Great and Clean one, the one event that did take him to, he tanked an entire high elf armies shooting and magic phases for 3 turns before
so
they
just went at him.
Yeah, everything, magic, bolt throwers, archers, everything just laid into this poor Great and Clean one. He was just standing there with his big fat belly, standing in the middle of the battlefield, rubbing it, trying to hit someone. The little elves were just, running around me, doing the elfy thing as they do, running around in circles, shooting me. But again, that was my rest of my army was untouched because they just annihilated that Great and Clean one. But the problem is by doing that, you're then losing 600 points. If you lose 3 Nurgling bases, it's 120 big points. So, so I love my Great and Clean one. I always give them silly names. So as you know, the Great and Clean one is Gary the Great and Clean one. You've got Barney the Bloodthirster, and soon we'll have Larry the Lord of Change. But I love Gary. He just, in the style of list that I want to play, he slows it down too much.
Yeah, I suppose just
ironically, the fat bloke slows your list down too much. So there we go.
So if we get, in all honesty, I haven't been listening to you for anything that you've said so far. So now we're going to talk about if you were going up against your army, what? I'll never get my notepad out. No, but just if you. Yeah, so what would be your plan if you were going up against Nurgle? Because you have kind of touched on it in terms of like you would bring something heavily armored and blah blah blah. But what would be your kind of? All
the games that I have lost with my demons, whether it's been a more of an Alex objective based game or a standard pitch battle or whatever, has been to 2 simple things. I think is the best thing to say. The number one is, well, I suppose there's probably 3. There's probably 3 ways to beat the army if you can. The first one's the quite simple one, which is take away their combat res, because the demons aren't going to die very quickly at all. But if you can get a flank and a front charge, or a rear charge, that sort of stuff, you're losing a lot of their static combat res. So that means during combat, obviously during the your break tests and everything. They are losing more models They're crumbling faster if they don't pop, because the leadership's going to be a problem. Doesn't always work out like that, especially with the cloud of flies, that sort of thing, but it helps you've got to essentially isolate a unit of plague bearers if you can, and just go hell for leather on them basically with all your combat troops. Roll big
units. Would you say bring big units? Make sure you've at least got the same.
Yeah, roll so many dice at them that Cloud of Flies doesn't come into effect anymore. You switch the law about who's back in your favour, that sort of stuff, and eventually they will just start to slowly whittle down and crumble. However, the easiest way, and this is why my list always loses to Tomb Kings and High Elves, is obviously, as we've already said, I don't take any wizards. My magic defense is the two dispel dice that I generate, plus the 1 dispel scroll that's on the battle standard bearer. That's it. So,
right.
so if I sit across the table from a level 4 and 3 level 2s at 2250,
yeah,
it's bend over princess time basically. And obviously, you were saying about using some of the more the buffing spells or the spells that mess with the enemy. Nah, don't worry about that. Just hit them with magic missiles.
Just zap them.
Just zap them, because Cloud of Flies doesn't come into it because magic missiles automatically hit. Generally, they're strength 4, so you're wounded on 4. So again, if you do 4 hits, you're going to get 2 wounds. Yes, I might save 1, but what you're doing is chipping away at me, because I'm slowly slogging across the table at you, and every magic phase you're killing off 2 models. Every shooting phase you're killing off 3 models. And so by the time
you got rid of a rank, to go on your last point, got rid of a rank. That's going to make a difference.
And so if by the time I get to you, I've got 6 plague bearers, well, those 6 plague bearers are doing, in the nicest possible way, bugger all, because they haven't got their ranks.
Yeah,
they haven't got their outnumber. They're not going to outnumber by fear causing the enemy, so they'll just stand there and then get piped to death. And that's why Tomb Kings are the worst army to face for me, because I don't have much magic defense at all. All of their spells automatically cast because of the way that they're.
It's like they're all bound spells essentially, aren't
they? So it's like they roll like the Leech Priest roll 2d6, and that's the level of the spell.
Yeah.
And so when you've got 2 Leech Priests standing next to 2 Screaming Skull catapults, and they can magically shoot the Screaming Skull catapults. Try and say that really quickly. in the magic phase, and then shoot them again in the shooting phase. They can do the same with their bow fire and everything like that. You just get whittled down, just slowly but surely. You just get whittled down and whittled down and whittled down until you can do nothing.
Yeah.
In combat, and that is literally how you beat them. It had the same done to me. One of the local guys at Derby, Matt, who plays High Elves, he plays pretty much everything has got a bow. So we've got Tyrannok chariots, shadow warriors, Sea Guard archers, bolt throwers, annoying eagle lord on a bloody.
I hate High Elves. I just hate them.
Everyone, no one likes High Elves, not even High Elves. And so every turn you're just facing it's a bit like playing my Dark Elves. You're just facing such a volume of shots that you're taking enough casualties that by the time you finally pin the buggers down and get into combat with them, you've got so little left to actually swing with or to beat them in combat that they just beat you and you just crumble away and die. You're just onto a hiding. Another good way of also doing it is with march blocking, because you've got an already slow army.
Yeah, that's good shout.
They're not dwarves, so they care about being march blocked. And so if you could get a unit chameleon skinks or furies or whatever behind them, obviously making sure that the Nurglings can't see them, because Nurglings are awesome. Then what will happen is that you can then outmaneuver the army. So I can't line up a double charge with the 2 units of plague bearers, or I can't have things supported, because it's like my standard setup will be, I'll try and look for a piece of terrain that I can essentially anchor one of my flanks around. So let's say if you've got like a big building kind of like just off the center by my deployment zone, I'll deploy the 2 blocks of plague bearers with the chariot in the middle of them, just set back a little bit from the line, because the Nurgle chariot's a large target, so it can see over my 2 blocks anyway.
Right, yeah.
So it can charge out and hit something at the same. It can charge out and hit something essentially. With the battle standard bearer, either in a unit, or if you've got someone, or if they haven't got something like flyers or things like that, it'll sit behind the unit so he can't be seen. And then I will move around that piece of terrain and just keep on having that front, that have that front essentially that people have got to charge into. If you slow me down so I can't do that, so the unit that's right next to it can turn really quickly, but the other one can't, so my battle line essentially becomes staggered. Sorry, I'm doing a bit of a stare movement.
No, I get it.
Becomes staggered.
If you imagine a guy doing big fish, little fish cardboard boxes,
that's essentially what we're talking about. But if you do that, then all of a sudden my flanks are open, so you can get in and amongst me, that sort of thing. And And that, quite simply, that's how you beat Nurgle Demons.
Okay. Any magic items are behind this? Would you go destructive magic items, or is there, I suppose, lots of bounce spells with more magic missiles, or?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is it's just overloaded. So, if you're playing high elves, that means you're going to be dealing with that bloody ring of
yeah. I can't
or
remember.
That's, yeah, it's the ring of Fury, the one that casts Fury of Cain. Dark elves, you've got your wand of Caradrian, I think is how you pronounce it, maybe. The one that does Doom Bolt.
Yeah. I can't think of the top of my head.
Yeah, it's the Doom Bolt staff.
Yeah, Doom Bolt ring. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the Ring of Violence in the thingy, because it's just another free spell that you can shoot at me. And more than likely, I'll probably hold dice to stop the ring, because that's a guaranteed spell, and make you roll for the other ones.
I get it.
And then if that happens, I've just got to. I'm sitting there and relying on my toughness 4 to see me through, and my ward save.
It. Okay. And get rid of your green.
I can see the cogs turning.
Yeah, can you see? What's that meme with all the numbers and the maths and the equations going past my face? I suppose great and clean ones, if you're going to deal with them, I suppose it'd be, I don't know, I suppose there's just it's just a numbers game of shooting stuff at them. And
to be honest, the best way they're really slow. Just avoid them.
Just keep them out of game.
Or just put cheap units in their way.
Yeah.
It's not
slow it down.
It's not dealing with the bloodthirster that flies and can see over stuff, so it'll fly. You'll put some cheap unit of chaff in its way, and it will just fly over it and go and hit the thing you didn't want it to hit.
Yeah,
because it's movement. Yeah, it's a large target still, but it's still only movement 8. So, it'll probably kill those sorts of things. But if you angle things correctly, they're going to be overrunning the wrong way that I don't want it to. And then the great and clean one sitting over there. And he might, cast what's the Nurgle spell that's D6 wounds? What is it? Boils. Which is D6 strength 4 hits, no armor save.
I always get the diseases mixed up with what's the name of which one.
Yeah. Or he might get a cheeky pestilence off on someone like that, or something like that. But the thing is that he's then not hitting stuff in combat, because he's got 6 attacks, his weapon skill 8 or whatever it is, strength 6. That sort of thing.
What toughness is it? Toughness 6?
Yeah, it's 6 across the board, which is a bit of a strange, really, because Nurgle's favourite number is 7. Yeah, his stats, the great and clean one, actually have no 7s in them whatsoever. Well, no,
he's up to something.
Yeah, exactly. He's strength 6 with 6 attacks, that sort of thing. So you want him to be hitting stuff.
I was just thinking about shooting him with stuff like strength 4, but stuff like that. So it's toughness 6.
And because the greater demons come with set demonic gifts, you can't tool them up how you would want to, like you could a demon prince.
Yeah.
You can't increase his ward save, so you can't give him a 4 at ward save, because let's be honest, 10 wounds at toughness 6 with a 4 at ward save would just be completely obnoxious. So he's only got a 5 at ward save. So if he can get through his toughness, a lot of the time, you remember passing quite a lot of 5 at ward saves, because it does feel quite lucky on a 5. But really, it's like on dice, it's a 1 in 3 chance. So if you roll 3 dice, you're guaranteed to get at least 1 5 up, essentially. If you're talking about maths, laws of averages, and probability, and everything like that. But and so you do remember passing them quite a lot. But in reality, if you pump enough shots into them, yes, they will go down eventually. But the thing is the great and clean one can only do so much damage because of how slow he is. So really, I just ignore him and hammer the rest of the army.
So he's just by himself. Yeah, I suppose it's the same. Because my brain was going, because I played an Empire army with a steam tank recently, and it's a similar kind of thing. It was kind of stay away from the steam, get everything else.
I played the same list with my Nurgle Demons at Chaos Rising, Nick's Empire with his steam tank. I just ignored it because I had nothing in my army that could hurt it.
Yeah.
I just ignored it and killed the rest of the army.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the steam tank ran my demon prince and put him down to 1 wound. It rammed some plague bearers and killed them, but apart from that, it didn't really do much at all. So what much like the steam tank, that sort of stuff. Feed it rubbish, get stuff in the way of it, and then just and then just ignore it and focus on the rest of the army, because I mean, if you do get lucky and kill it, great. It's 600 victory points to you, but is it worth it when you could get that same amount of points from killing 3 Nurgle bases and 20 plague bearers?
Yeah,
which are much easier to kill.
That's a good point. Right, so I'll get out your hair in a minute. I appreciate it. So a couple more things really. It was just like that. What are you bringing to War of the Everchosen? Are you looking forward to that? Are you going to bring Nurgle to that? That's, even though you kind of said you were retiring them and putting them away.
Well, I'm not bringing a demon-based list because obviously, you know.
Oh no, that's it.
As we know, this is about choosing the next Everchosen, so he's got to be more. I'm and ahhing. I'm definitely going to bring Chaos, but I can't decide whether I'm going to bring Nurgle or Khorne, because I may actually just go for a bit of a laugh and just push angry men at people and see what happens.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, you know, I haven't decided yet. Problem is I've actually got to start painting it. I mean, I'm painting a different army at the moment. So I mean, you've seen my well, we'll call them horrors, shall we? Some unholy union of a squig, a horror, and a human. I love those models. They're so weird. But I haven't quite decided yet. I'm leaning more towards Nurgle.
Got till February, so you got a couple of months to paint him up and things. So, and the last bit really was just do you want to tell everybody about your 3D printing store? Just what types of things you print, where people can find you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on Facebook, Matt's 3D Printing Haven. It's the same store name is on eBay as well at the moment. I do need to get onto Etsy as well, but I've just stuck with eBay for the time being to try things out. But I will do commission printing, that sort of stuff, if people have got files like yourself that want stuff doing.
Yeah, I'm doing an Albion army, aren't I? Just very like Barbet Celt, Woad, picked type thing, and you've printed most of that, so cheers for that.
That's not a problem at all. And the main thing is I'm a licensed merchant for two creators at the moment. One's called for Bezel, and he does a lot of the main thing is Chaos Dwarves and Hobgoblins. If anyone liked the 5th edition guys with big hats and silly mustaches, that's it
looked a bit of. I was really impressed. I thought the dwarfs might be easier to look exactly like them because they're a bit stumpier, and maybe that's easier with print. I was surprised how once they were painted, the hobgoblins looked exactly the same as the ones.
Yeah, the hobgoblins are the spitting image, and I mean, like the hobgoblins, he's got Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, Archers, Warriors, and Sneaky Gits as well. I think they're called Assassins for him, but they're Sneaky Gits from the game. And then Chaos Dwarves, you've got your basic warriors, your warriors with blunderbusses, Ball Centaurs, the couple of different character models, and the guy on the Lamassu, and then the other guy that I'm a merchant for is a guy called Illadil, and this guy is so prolific, it's insane. I actually, the amount of stuff he produces, I can't keep up with listing it. I've still got about a third of his range that I still haven't listed on eBay yet because it just takes so long. But he's one of those that does a lot of that picks fantasy armies and builds them, but does them for a lot of different game systems. So it's like I've listed all of his Dark Elves, for example, but you'll see some of the units that are for Kings of War. They're like elves have like a war machine that's essentially a dragon that fires fire at people, like a baby dragon that they use as a flamethrower, essentially. So you'll have some of that stuff, but then obviously you've got all your stuff that you would want to see from Dark Elves, like your Shades, your Dark Riders, your Cobalt Knights, all that sort of stuff. He's done a range of Boar Orcs, which if anyone remembers Bebop and Rocksteady from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that, but in a fantasy setting, essentially.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, so it's orcs, but they're all like hogs, essentially, instead of standard orcs. What else?
Well, you could use them as beastmen as well, couldn't you?
Yeah.
A goat type guy.
Yeah, you could do it. Someone's just bought some of the trolls, as they're called, Brolls or something like that, as what Illadil's called them. But some of the trolls, and I haven't printed any of the range off yet because obviously no one's ordered them at all. And I looked at them and I'm like, those are actually really, really, really nice figures. And it's like I'm sitting there going, they could be some pretty funky minotaurs. They could be. Yeah, I'm thinking like pig pig Nurgle Minosaurs, that sort of thing. Pigs could kind of fit really with all the flies around them and everything.
Yeah.
What else has he done? He's just started to do Kislev essentially. I think he's called them the League of Slavia or something like that. So it's like you've got people riding bear, Russian-looking dudes riding bears and ice queens and all that sort of stuff, and winged lancers.
I was going to say the guys with the big wings at the back.
Yeah. He's done the wing lancers as well. There's every flavour of elf. So you've got your high elf versions and you've got your wood elf versions as well if you want those. Chaosy looking northern barbarian dudes, like loads of stuff. As I say, I can't list it fast enough.
Well, I'll link your store with anybody finds a post for this podcast. I'm sure you'll find a link for Matt's stuff on there. So give it a look out. But otherwise, mate, thanks so much for the chat. That was a good laugh, that, and hopefully get some good stuff people can listen to. If you go to a lot of events in the UK, you'll probably run into Matt. He's usually the top three, the prick, while I'm fighting in the bottom three, desperate to get out of that bottom three. But no,
you're just a member of the Holy Order of the Wooden Spoon, Dave.
God, you monster. But I'm sure if he's not because his games seem to last 20 minutes because he hasn't got 2 rounds essentially. I'm sure if you've got any advice and you see him, he'd be happy to give you a quick chat if you see him at an event. Unless he's playing you, then probably not so much. But cheers for your time, mate. I'm
not happy to give anyone any advice. That's just the way it rolls in the community, isn't it? Everyone's out to help each other.
Well, in all honesty, that's why I wanted to start this podcast, really, because it's really cool because people were really supportive. Complete strangers are really supportive of me when I go back into the hobby. Because that's what I think a lot of people forget is people want more people in the hobby. We want to play new people. We want to play new armies.
I met you at someone's house randomly in South Wales because you'd come to that one resurrection event. That was literally it.
Yeah. That is, so people traveling from all around the country, and you do every event. You meet new people, and you see the same crowd as well, don't you? So there's like half of them, they're all a good laugh. So if you're listening to this, you should check them out. This podcast are full of shameless plugs of the War of the Everchosen anyway. But any event in the UK, you probably see him. And if it's around the Midlands or something, and it's kind of resurrection, Alex's event and stuff, you're probably going to meet Matt. But
yeah, we're doing another Dark Omens next year as well in Derby.
That's right. Sorry, you and Tom. It was a really good event in November. Was it that we did that? That was
October this year.
Yeah, it's November right now, isn't it? So I've lost where I am. But that was a really good event. So yeah. So look out for that next year. But otherwise, mate, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. And
no problem.
And I'm looking forward to taking all those notes you're giving me and giving you a smash in next time I see it. And by smashing, I mean
I could never play my Nurgle Daemons ever again. I told people
that's it. You have to retire them now. Anyway, cheers, buddy. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks to Matt for coming, and if you're looking for some really cool 3D printed miniatures for Warhammer, you should really check out his store, Matt's 3D Printing Haven, on Facebook and eBay. Remember to check out War of the Everchosen on talesoftheoldworld.com if you're looking for an awesome tabletop event. Otherwise, see you next time.